Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Bills Roundtable, live Mondays and Thursdays, where we unpack everything Buffalo Bills related. I really wanted to start this show off by really unpacking what Darius Slay could mean for our secondary, but that all lasted for a little over 12 hours. We heard the news. We're going to unpack that. Plus, the Bills and Cincinnati Bengals full-scale preview, what to expect, where our heads are at, advantages on Bill's side, advantages on the Bengals side. Great lineup ahead of us today. Kev, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Not much, man. Just excited to dive in, talk Bengals, talk about the best 4-8 team to ever exist. So pretty excited to break that down. And apparently feel like the Bills are underdogs. So, but otherwise, man, feeling good. Like 8-4. The Bills have 8.3 wins every year under the Josh Allen era. So we're right there, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. So we'll see what they do. One of the best teams in December and January, 22-3. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Let's see what we can do, man. I want to get that monkey off of our back with that Burrow thing, although that we've only played him for twice in a quarter. But regardless, I would like to finally get that off of our back. Z-Bot, first off, man, how's week 2 or week 3 of fatherhood treating you, bro?
Things are great. We just hit week 3 yesterday, a month next week. So we're settling in as much as we can, but it's going well. Things are good. Thanks for asking. And yeah, just taking it a day at a time. She already feels a lot bigger than she did 3 weeks ago, which is pretty wild. So that's the whole thing.
You guys ready for the months photo shoots coming up with the 1 and the 2 months?
Yeah. So I think my wife said today we're going to do,
what are you gonna do?
A donut, I think, every month until you get to the dozen at the year, which I thought was a cool idea. So I'm not hip to the there's a million TikTok trends, with this type of stuff. So I think that might have been one of them. But I'm following the lead there. I don't entirely know what the process is, but I'm down for whatever. But things are going
That's
great.
A new one. I like it.
Yeah. There's always something, you know what I mean? But I thought it was a pretty good idea because, how many things come in a dozen typically? That would be the one thing I think you think of. So cool idea. On the topic of the Buffalo Bills, I missed you guys Tuesday or Monday, so I missed you. Sorry I couldn't make it, but I was glad the Bills dominated in that second half for a while there. I thought we were going to be coming into this week talking about the same old. That Pittsburgh Steelers team, not very good. Couldn't believe the Bills were only able to muster 3 points in that first half, and it just felt like it was going to be another one of those games where you're left thinking to yourself, I mean, my God, what is wrong with the Buffalo Bills? Turned it on in the second half. Was great to see that. Hope that defensive effort that we saw against Pittsburgh is able to translate to some degree in this upcoming game here against the Cincinnati Bengals, because that offense the Bills just faced in the Steel City is nothing compared to what I think the Cincinnati Bengals are capable of. This is a very intriguing, exciting matchup. I got a feeling the NFL might regret a little bit knocking this one out of the 4:25 p.m. window down to the 1 p.m. window. Burrow versus Allen. You mentioned it, Dan. I mean, this is something that hasn't had as much of the billing, of course, as Mahomes versus Allen, just because of the amount of times played, but it still feels huge. It is huge, especially for Cincinnati. If they lose, their season's done. I mean, it would take a miracle of epic proportions. And even then, I don't even know if it's possible. I think they have a 1% chance. So it's a huge game for them, but it's a huge game for Buffalo too. If they lose, their 93-ish% playoff chances go down to the 70s. Every game we know is big at this point, but when it's Allen versus Burrow, that's always going to be awesome. And the fact that it's in Buffalo to me right now has me feeling good, but we'll talk about it, and I'm excited for that game.
And so quite literally, man, I was reading something earlier that this is the 4th worst defense DVOA through 12 weeks of any season in NFL history.
Wow.
It is that bad.
They were good last week, Dan.
I was going to say, that just makes what happened last week that much more insane. What's going on with Baltimore right now is, I mean, you think Allen's had his struggles, right? You think the Bills' offense have had their struggles. If you watch Baltimore, I don't know if it comes close right now. That team has no identity, and they cannot seem to get the ball to Derrick Henry. He had 6 yards of carry last week. They gave him the ball 10 times. They turned it over, 5 times? It was a wild watch. They got their ass whooped in prime time against a team like you just mentioned, Kevin, where you got to think Lamar and Derrick Henry are putting up 20-plus points minimum on that D, and they couldn't do anything.
Of course, man. It's not just Baltimore. It's not just so with Buffalo at times. It's Philadelphia, too. They're struggling getting things going offensively, at least as of late. But you know what? Now is a good time for this Buffalo Bills team and to make some adjustments and get back to their winning ways in December and going into the playoffs. First off, I wanted to talk about Darius Slay. I'm not sure about you guys, but I was excited about that. I genuinely was. Not because I thought that he was going to be a starting CB2 for us. Surprisingly enough, Trey White's been like looking very good for us. But I did think that he could have been utilized in various dime packages. I thought that we could utilize him here and there. And I also would have felt a hell of a lot more comfortable if Benford were to go down at any point during the divisional round or maybe even the wild card round. I felt a lot better with Darius Slay picking up those responsibilities opposed to maybe a Jamarcus Ingram or something along those lines. We all know that we have a rain cloud of injuries in the secondary when it comes into the playoffs for the past couple of years. But then, I mean, he decided that he wants to take a couple of days and speculate on whether or not he wants to play football in the first place. Thoughts on the roller coaster of the short-lived Darius Slay Buffalo Bill tenure? I'm going to start off with Z-Bot here.
These moves typically do nothing for me but kind of make me laugh. Whenever there's a late season, old veteran signing, everyone's always like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And typically my answer is I don't really have many because there's a reason why this guy's let go this late into the season. And acquiring him, in my opinion, does nothing unless there's a wave of injuries that require this guy to go out on the field. And if that's the case, then I'm starting to think that I'm not feeling particularly great about that particular area in general. I mean, it's kind of the same example would be with Gabe Davis. Do you feel good about the Buffalo Bills wide receiver room? No. Did you feel that much better about it with Gabe Davis? Maybe you do because he has former rapport with Josh Allen. So that'd be my one reason to say, yeah, I actually did not mind that one. But the same thing happened last week when Brandon Cooks was signed. What do you think about this? To me, I'm like, it's not a bad thing the Bills are adding depth. To me, the bad thing here is it feels that Brandon Cooks is being added to be the savior of the wide receiver room heading into week 13. That, to me, is the bad thing here. It's not a bad thing to add depth, but when you look at the reasoning as to why, that to me is where the concern lies. But you're talking about Darius Slay here. I don't think this was a move of need. It was more so what you're talking about, Dan. It was a move of depth should they need it in the playoffs. And we've seen this team, of course, go into the playoffs defensively as banged up as any team has been the last handful of years. And you could argue it's been one of the reasons why they've had their struggles on that side of the ball. In particular, I go back to that Bills-Chiefs game in the divisional round in Buffalo, where it was just like a YMCA crew out there that Sean McDermott had to field. And that game still came down to a missed Tyler Bass field goal. And you wonder what would have been different if they had their starters in there. So this particular situation is interesting, though, because it feels like he's trying to get back to Philadelphia. The intrigue, though, however, is I don't think that Philadelphia right now has a better chance to win a championship than the Buffalo Bills do. In fact, I'd argue they have a worse chance because I think the Bills could get to the Super Bowl. I don't know if Philadelphia is getting past the Seahawks or the Rams right now, the way I look at it. And if they do, I just think the path to the Super Bowl in the NFC is far more difficult than that of the AFC. At the same time, you know, moving this late in the season, this late in your career, I know that's got to be annoying. These are the things we don't think about. All we do is think about the football parameters. But you know the guy still wants to play. So if he does go to Philadelphia, he still has to move down the road there in Pennsylvania. But if I'm this late in my career, fellas, my main objective beyond finances, and at this point, that's a moot point, my main objective would be to go out with a bang as loud as I possibly can. And that would be to win a championship. If I'm looking at these two teams, I just think right now, at the bare minimum, getting to the main stage, I'd put my money on Buffalo right now over Philadelphia. That offense is completely incompetent right now. And I just watched the Chicago Bears do whatever they wanted to their defense, and that stunned me. And I'm also looking at the landscape of the NFC. If we're comparing those two playoff pictures right now, fellas, I think it's far more of a gauntlet in the NFC than it is the AFC. So
for sure,
that seems like the play here for Darius Slay. But, you know, we talked about this a bit off camera. If I'm Brandon Beane, I do not make that easy for Howie Roseman and company. I'm not just signing you to let you walk to another team because that's what you want to do. That's not how I would play it. We'll see how Beane ends up playing it. We'll see how this ends up going down. But I would force the hand of retirement far more than I would allow it to be easily handed over to Philadelphia.
And so what are your thoughts on that, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, look, I get a little bit more excited maybe than Z-Bot would about the veteran additions, depending. Like the Freemans and the Stills do nothing for me back in the days when we would sign them. I have a relationship with some of the play like Shaq Lawson, and is what it is. Like, honestly, I mean, I think he adds depth, but I think there's levels, right? So when it comes to like a Morgan Fox, to me, I think he should have been on a roster. So that's like a little bit different of a scenario. So then you talk about Gabe Davis, and that was an injury rehab. So that's one's also kind of out of the elements of a situation. But then Slay's interesting. So you really look at kind of the veterans they've acquired and some of the film that was out on Slay. And I know I was watching some that Eric Turner posted, and I mean, he's still got it. So I just don't think he was a great scheme fit within Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's like, okay, we signed ASJ off of an injury, kind of like the Bills did with Gabe Davis. So ASJ was kind of similar in that guys. And they're like, all right, Slay, you're going to be in the backup role. We're going to let you go start somewhere. The Bills claimed him probably out of the blue. The Bills were like, he's still a good corner, especially in the system we run. We're going to claim him. And then from there, he's like, well, I thought I was just going to go to the Eagles and start. So I'm going to retire now. That's like the difference here. And to add that kind of depth late in the year is a huge bonus. To me, the Bills get a lot out of these veteran corners. Look at Kevin Johnson way back in the past. They get a lot out of these guys. And it just, to me, it's like, I don't have to rely on Corey Couch or Dane Jackson at some point. That probably is a pretty solid move. And or Hardy, who really can't play corner. So to me, that's like a pretty, and Ingram, they clearly did not think could step up in big moments, was really just on the team at this point for dime and special teams only. So I was pretty excited to have a guy like that could come in when they play 20% dime right now and actually do something to cover second, third, and fourth receivers. So to me, I thought I was pretty excited by that kind of signing. But generally speaking, I can see the veteran appeal of these guys like Nicole Hardman and others. I kind of get that. I get that factor. But I thought Cooks and Slay were a little bit, and whether Slay plays for us, nobody, or the Eagles, I still think it's a really good signing for the Eagles if he does make it over to Philly and Bean's like, whatever, we're not going to play this game, just go to the Eagles. Or if he's the opposite and it's like, nah, man, we got to entertain the contractual obligation here. I don't see Bean doing that. He's too much of a player's GM in my opinion. I mean, Sean McDermott's definitely in that guise of being a player's coach with that regards. So I just don't really see them stashing him. But Bean's known to play hardball from what I've been told in the past, especially with contracts like Harrison Phillips and others. So we'll see how this plays out where they're like, look, I don't get why the Steelers are able to trade players, essentially take Thielen off veteran waivers and then waive somebody fighting for the playoffs. I don't think that's overly fair. We're going to claim Slay. He helps our roster. So that's what I would say. I'd say the Bills knew what they were doing claiming a veteran, Dan. And ultimately, they didn't care because they thought he helped the roster, and they even exposed Jamarcus Ingram to waivers. So to me, it's they actually did see a path to him, and that even with Trey White, 32nd ranked DVOA right now.
Dude.
He's corner one right now per coverage metrics.
He's good. And you know what? It's funny too. It's really, really funny because the top two names that people love to shit on with the secondary, that's Jordan Poyer and Trey White. They are the two highest graded EPA per play DBs on this roster right now. Season collectively.
Poyer has played well lately, specifically.
Yeah. Lately. He's definitely done his thing. And I also think that he's probably put a hand into the development of Cole Bishop. And this kind of goes into how I'm looking at this defense. I know that the front office clearly wanted this defensive line to be something, but it's kind of funny how we've reverted back to your traditional McDermott defense, right? So a team that's iffy when it comes to stopping the run, one that's very difficult into getting to the quarterback, but a really good secondary. It's a good secondary. I feel like we're getting back to the old days. And with the injury report that just ended up dropping, we ultimately ended up seeing AJ Epinesa did not participate today with a foot injury. Probably no Joey Bosa. What the hell are we going to do with our defensive line? On Sunday, I think that's my next question for you guys. One would assume it's probably a Morgan Fox game, right? It's probably him. Dare I say Shaq Lawson is also elevated from the practice squad? I mean, what other choice do they have? Kevin, talk to me about the state of this damn defensive line.
I was waiting for the injury report to come out to see exactly what was going on with AJ. It was weird. He looked in good spirits, kind of walking around. It's another in-week injury. This has got to change. This is not Bean's fault. This is not even McDermott's fault. This is not Bobby Babbitt's fault or Josh Allen's fault. These guys got to stop getting injured in practice week. And in Daquan Jones's case, in 10 minutes before the game. Like it has to stop. So somebody's got to take accountability. Either they are the world's most unlucky team to have 6 or 5 to 7, whatever it is, in week injuries, or something's going on with Will Greenberg and the training staff. I said that yesterday. I know a lot of like the medical or the PT guys weren't very happy with that comment, but like something's different. Like something's going on with their training regimen in a contained environment. Why are guys getting hurt? It doesn't make a ton of sense. Like the step on thing, fine, whatever, it's football. But like, why are guys coming up with random injuries in week? I don't know. This is super bizarre. But Dan, to answer your original question, you look through right here. Bernard's not playing. That's fine. Everyone likes Jack Thompson right now better until they don't. Joey Bosa's obviously not playing. As you look through, I think the tackles go, so that should be okay. Epinesa with the foot, we have to see tomorrow if that's anything or where we lay with that. A bunch of fulls behind that. Kincaid, I don't know what to think about that guy getting hurt off of his hamstring rehab, getting hurt with the knee. That's bizarre too. Throw that again on the training staff. What's going on there? And then Palmer gets getting hurt in practice for sure. And Sanders is obviously fine. So Dan, yeah, there's 2 natural replacements right now. You're gonna have to call up Shaq Lawson and you're gonna have to call up Morgan Fox. Most likely with the Slay news, you're gonna call one up to the active roster and then elevate one on game week, and then probably plug Ingram in on the practice squad. That's kind of the roster moves I see happening.
So I swear, man, look, and so I would like to go without a game where I see TJ Sanders or Daquan Jones like taking reps off of the edge. And so I would
gotta call them
ideally like to see that, but I have a feeling we'll probably see at least a tad of that on Sunday. Zeba, thoughts on the defensive line?
This is just endless. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing that I struggle with, everybody's always looking for somebody to blame. I don't really do that because I don't really know who you can blame here. Injuries are injuries. It just so happens to be that the Bills seem to have more than everybody. But then I look at the San Francisco 49ers, right, who's been banged up more than them. Robert Saleh's figured that defense out, right? I mean, they really haven't lost a step. And when you look at who's starting for the San Francisco D, and then when you look at who they've lost, multiple Hall of Famers, I mean, it's amazing what they've been able to do. So it's not just a Buffalo problem, but it seems to be a Buffalo problem each and every year. What I've had a struggle with more recently here is that is now trickled over to the offense, where Dalton Kincaid's going on a month here. It was why last week, going into the Pittsburgh game, I got to tell you, fellas, I wasn't feeling great. When the Bills are coming off of an 8-sack game, and I know that Pittsburgh's defense is not a shell of what Houston's is, but I had to think, you got TJ Watt, you got Cam Hayward, you got a lot of big names on that defense, and you're without 2 of the anchors of this team, much less the offensive line. I had a feeling it was going to be a rough day. And the fact that they went out there and ran for the most yards anyone's ever ran for in that building was stunning to me. I could not believe it. But we're looking at this game, and the difference is that the offense that you're playing on the other side of the field is far more potent than that of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the thing of this particular game is, in order to mitigate Joe Burrow's impact, you would like to have as healthy of a defensive line as possible. This Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is not great. They're ranking out in the bottom or the mid to low 20s, right? But we're looking at teams that the Bills have played in that tier. They've had success against the New York Jets. They had success against the Saints. But most recently around that tier, the Miami Dolphins. And the last time they played the Miami Dolphins, it did not go well, as we all know. So looking at this game, what sucks the most is the 2 guys that you had post all these other injuries, and AJ Epinesa and Joey Bosa, they're now hurt. I don't think you're not going to see Bosa out there. I doubt we see Epinesa out there. You're missing a Thursday practice. To me, that can't be good. And then on the offensive side of things, I'm glad we're getting Brown and Dawkins back more than likely, but I highly doubt we see Kincaid out there with yet another injury here, and that concerns me a ton. When we're talking about a game that you're probably going to have to score 30 points in, I'd imagine, or at least feel comfortable about it going into the game in terms of your chance of winning. Defensively, though, the one thing I look at here, everyone's billing this game as Josh Allen as Joe Burrow versus Joe Burrow, rightfully so. That's the marquee here. But Chase Brown, I think that's an underrated element of this game, especially going up against the Bills' run defense. And now you're adding the absence of Joey Bosa, more than likely the absence of AJ Epinesa, a laundry list of other guys out. So if they can establish the run game in this one, which why wouldn't they be able to? We've seen undrafted players be able to establish the run game against the Buffalo Bills. I could imagine Chase Brown and company would be able to do the same. then that opens things up even further. And then you're not reliant on the ability to get after Joe Burrow. You can get after Aaron Rodgers, who cannot navigate a pocket anymore. He can't move. I've never seen that guy look older than I did this past week. Joe Burrow's fully healthy now. He wasn't even on the injury report this week, right?
The only thing, Z-Bot, real quick on that, and you can then comment, is he just said himself he's not comfortable, he can't move, and he does not like that carbon fiber left foot.
Who's this?
Joe Burrow.
Oh, well, I'll say this. I was intrigued that he wasn't on the injury report, because that kind of tells me, I mean, is he even rehabbing it anymore? But no. But to your point, I didn't hear that. So that's interesting. Although I got to give him credit. He is very honest with the media, by the way. Joe Burrow. He is incredibly honest with the media. But they were asking about the Lane Kiffin situation. You could tell he kind of had a couple of under the table comments there, which I liked. So that's interesting to hear. But here's the scary thing, fellas. I don't think he played nearly his best game against Baltimore, and they put up 30+ points with relative.
They were awful
ease.
In the red zone. Yeah, they were awful in the red zone.
Yeah.
So this injury list is concerning. The one reason I feel good about this game, once again, the Bills just seem to be a different team at home. I think that goes without saying. Yeah. But listen, I was on with Zim yesterday, Dan, doing the AFC North Roundtable, and I'm allegedly doing a 2v2, me and Rico versus him and his buddy tomorrow. He's feeling really good about this game. And
best 4-8 team to ever exist.
Oh, believe me, I've heard it. I'll say this, though, real quick. I just want to say, I get it. From the Bengals' perspective, with the injuries Buffalo has here, I get it. To me, though, the question is, Dan, which offense exploits the defense the most? Because I think both these offenses have the opportunity to do it.
Yes, I certainly agree with you that. And fun fact, I did agree to let Zim on my show tomorrow morning.
Oh, let's go. I'll be tuning in. That's great.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, some research for yourself so you can, just lock in on the Buffalo Fanatics thing. Zim, man.
Oh, he's fired up.
It's going to be a good conversation, man. It really, really is. But
you can get to him one way, and I heard this already. We've talked to him a little bit. He likes to mention that Joe Burrow's not a check down artist, but the data actually supplies that he's top 10 in the league in checkdowns. So,
he's top 10 in the league in check. Hey, look.
Get him going.
You get a lot of yak.
You'll really throw him off. You'll throw him off his game.
Just be like, dude, he's top 10 in checkdowns. You know what I mean? Look.
He is.
Look,
top 10, number 10.
I have all the respect in the world for Joe Burrow. I do think that he is like right up there in the elite conversation.
Yes.
And I feel like we should start off with what the Buffalo Bills defense needs to do against this team. And Z-Bot already hinted at it. A slept-on aspect of this team is that they're very, very good at running the football with Chase Brown and company. Now, they basically tell you what they're doing, right? Like, this is a big inside zone and a man pull type, like, rushing attack. Very few attempts outside zone. It's really in between the tackles and just trying to beat you on that north-south side of things. I'm not sure about you guys, but I have a feeling, and I would not be shocked at all if Cincinnati completely throws a curveball, and that is their game plan, at least toward the beginning of the game, which is why I would really like a lot of crowded boxes, very similar to what we saw against Pittsburgh last week. I would avoid light boxes like the plague and just let Shaq Thompson do his damn thing. Right? Like y'all have probably seen that I'm a big proponent for Shaq taking over Mike responsibilities for the rest of the year. But I'm very curious to see what Buffalo can do. Was that just a flash in the pan, or has Buffalo finally figured out the right group of personnel to finally figure out or at least limit the bleeding from these running backs? I'm going to start off with Kevin on this one.
They figured out the right fit. Like, so if we're going to give them credit for figuring out things, which we've all done, I think all three of us, Zim, Will, whoever you got, we speak with the rest of the week, they're getting credit now for making adjustments and getting their quarterback back and their offensive line playing better and their defense being better in the last 2 weeks, or whatever they claim, 7th or 8th in EPA, whatever the number is. They always move the sliders on which weeks they're talking about. We got to give credit to the Bills defense, who's now top 5 in the league in the last 2 weeks in defensive EPA. So we can say they played the ghost of Aaron Rodgers pass and they played, Houston or whatever you want to say. But actually, since week 2, guys, this is the interesting thing. Since the first 3 quarters of the season, Bills are 8th in EPA per play, total EPA per play. The Bills defense, excuse me. So, they have made tweaks. They have been victimized at times by the run. But the thing to remember, a lot of them haven't overly affected the overall expected points of a game. Like I always say, one big run is one series. It's one series that in all those games they lost, the Bills offense had the ball to win, take the lead, make it a different game, whatever the scenario may be. But the last 2 weeks, Shaq Thompson has added a different dynamic to this roster. He's playing as well as he has. So good for him. Linebackers have been known to do that in their career.
Yeah.
And I think they do have some. I mean, Greg Rousseau is a really good run defender. He really is. He's really, really, really good, like top 3 in the league. So I know we want the pass rush metrics, but like, honestly, I think the Bills may go, if they don't think they're going to get after the quarterback without AJ Epinesa and without Joey Bosa and Michael Hoyt, maybe they do call up whatever they feel is their best run and contain front. And that's how they play this thing, containing coverage and make sure there's no running. Like Shaq Lawson's a good run defender. He really is. I don't know if he can still get after the quarterback. I'm not sure, but his metrics against the run are really strong, and Morgan Fox is too. So maybe the Bills go with a run defense type of lineup, and Joe Burrow's going to get his anyways. You're going to have to battle back and forth, but maybe if you can shut down the run, be interesting. But the Bills are going to go with a run-heavy front, in my opinion. That's how I envision this. The defensive tackles kicking out maybe doesn't help you much against the pass rush, but maybe you get a little bit of boost. And I love what they're doing with someone that judges and hasn't really seen the fit with Dorian Williams on this defense. Him at the line of scrimmage in the fourth line and the third linebacker sets in the 4-3 base, and him spying the quarterbacks even if they're not running and actually playing the run has been a super help. So we'll see how this all turns out. But I think they go with a Z-Bot. They may counter by going with their best defensive front in terms of stopping the run, and maybe it affects the pressure situation, but that's how I think they go out personnel-wise in this game.
And so, like I said, right, like really what their identity is running the football is really just 2 schemes. It's the inside zone and man pull. So it's not like you're really going to be seeing them stressing any outside zone situations. So make it happen, Buffalo. Z-Bot, thoughts on containing this damn run game?
Well, if I'm Cincinnati, I think it's one angle that I try to play in this game. I do. I think it might be the underrated element. If you're talking about this game in particular, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, we'll see about T. Higgins. I would imagine he'll be back, but we'll see. Regardless, though, that's what you think of. But when you're going up against this Bills run D, who has been susceptible to allowing teams to run all over them, I think that Cincinnati has the ability to be able to do that if that's the angle they go with. So, we're talking about the EPA per play here. We're talking about the Bills' success as of late. But here's how I see it. The success in which teams have had this year when they have a pretty good running back and an above average wide receiver, I mean, it's pretty noticeable. We saw this in week 1 against the Ravens. Derrick Henry went nuts. Zay Flowers had his best game as a pro. We saw this against the Atlanta Falcons, where Drake London might have had his best day as a pro. We saw Bijan Robinson go nuts. The Miami Dolphins, we saw Jalen Waddle go nuts. We saw Devon Achane go nuts in that football game. Where the Bills have had their most success against the run has been against teams where they do not trust them to beat them with the pass. The Carolina Panthers, they had no faith in Andy Dalton beating them through the air. That's why they wound up sacking him 8 times. So they had no faith in that. That's why they shut down Hubbard and Dowdle in that football game. The New York Jets, that goes without saying. At that point of the year where the Bills were getting run on, they shut down the New York Jets, and that's because they knew Justin Fields wasn't going to be able to pass on them. And last week, Aaron Rodgers was 10 of 21. Their second best wide receiver is their running back in Kenneth Gainwell. They had really given no credence to the ability of the Pittsburgh Steelers beating them through the air. They shut down the ground. Well, frankly, they shut down everything. But when you have, 17 minutes of time of possession, you don't really have much time to do anything. So that's as much credit to the Bills' offense as anything. But in this game, you're going up against maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL. I think he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. If Higgins is back, it's the best tandem in the NFL. I think this team in general plays better with Joe Burrow, not just because of who he is, but because they have a belief in Joe Burrow beyond the backup. That goes without saying. And they're really playing with house money here. If they lose, no one's going to be stunned that their season's over because they're 4-8. They have a 3% chance to make the playoffs. They're playing with house money. They really have nothing to lose. Yes, you could argue they have a playoff spot to lose, but how realistic is that they're going to run the table and then Baltimore and Pittsburgh are both going to completely collapse and they win the division? So there's a lot of elements in play, in my opinion, in this game that do favor Cincinnati. And one here is you have the ability to run, but on top of that, you also have the best wide receiver tandem in the game. And when I've looked throughout the season here, where the Bills have gotten destroyed on the ground the most, it's also felt like they've had to go against a receiver too that had an extraordinary day. And if we're looking at Waddle, Zay Flowers, and Drake London, they don't hold a candle to what Jamar Chase is. So all these elements in play here, to me, it feels like a turnover or two might be necessary in order to really flip the game. But above anything, the Bills offense is going to have one of those Panthers or Chiefs outings, fellas, in my opinion, in order to have their best chance here. But luckily, I think the Cincinnati defense poses the opportunity for the Bills to be able to do that.
For sure. So shifting over to their pass attack, right? It's definitely a question mark of how Buffalo is going to adjust to this, because it was just announced that T. Higgins was a full participant today in practice. So more than likely they will have their starting tandem. When he's available, it's a lot of 11-man personnel. It's 2x2s on each side as well. And funny enough, Burrow finished 34th last year in play action rate. Dude hates play action. Play action is not a part of the center. Yeah. Like, play action is just not a part of their offense at all. It's basically, my dogs are more ferocious than yours, and they're going to beat you. And very oftentimes that's right. So I'm kind of curious. So what y'all's thoughts are? Like, we saw Benford was being experimented as like a shadow corner last week. So you would assume that you would like to see Benford, like manned up, like press man coverage, of course, right on Jamar Chase with some safety help over top. And then just hope that either Tre'Davious White can continue his hot streak, Maxwell Harrison can have something to say when it comes into T. Higgins. How I look at this is that Burrow and the Bengals are going to get theirs. And so I think that they are going to score, and so a lot of points. And so I think this is really going to stretch out and be a shootout type game where we're going to need this team to put up plus 30 points in order to win, and perhaps maybe come together for a turnover or just make sure it's timed perfectly.
They did during the
last one. Yeah. So I'm sort of curious, like, what's the Bills' best like strategy versus this passing attack? I'm gonna start off with Z-Bot on this one.
So I think it could easily go that way. There's also a part of me that thinks both teams might pound the rock in this one, and we do get a slightly lower scoring game than we think. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be the Tampa Bay type game, but it easily could be. Then again, though, I think the Bills look at last week. Now, granted, they're not going to be able to easily walk in there and run the same two plays over and over again, because I don't think you can do that together. I don't think you can do that 2 weeks in a row. It'd be nice if you'd be able to run for 250 on the same two plays and have 42 minutes of time in possession, but I don't know how sustainable that is. I do think that the running game, though, is going to be a major part of this football game for both teams. Now, in terms of stopping the pass game, I think first and foremost, early in the football game, it's going to be showcasing for Cincinnati that they're not going to be able to run the football with ease. I think that's going to be critical, because I think if they're running the football in the first quarter, 5-6 yards a clip, opening that pass game up, then I think that's where it gets dangerous. And I also think that in this game, having an early lead to me is probably going to be big too, because I don't think that these teams are going to, basically the ability to run the football is going to be predicated on having that lead, I think. And I think getting a lead early in the football game could be vital for either side, just because I think if the Bills have to get into a shootout through the air, unfortunately, I don't think that the Buffalo Bills air attack right now is going to be able to keep on par with what the Cincinnati Bengals might be able to do. I just don't currently trust the Bills in a game where they have to throw the football, not exclusively, but far more than run it, because we've seen throughout the year, if the Bills get shut down on the ground game, well, then their chances of winning do diminish quite noticeably. And in this game, I do think that the best approach to stopping the Bengals pass offense in a weird way, it's going to be establishing the run game itself on the Bills offensive side of things, mitigating the run game for Cincinnati on their side of things. Because I just don't think, no matter what you do, even with T. Higgins out, right? We've seen this year, no matter what you do, you're not stopping Jamar Chase. You weren't able to stop Jamar Chase with Joe Flacco in there. And I think that you're not going to be able to stop him with Joe Burrow. So no matter what you do, I don't think you're erasing him from the football game. To me, it's going to be more so the Bills having a time of possession advantage that's going to bode well for them in that department.
Yeah, it's it's definitely interesting how you look at it, right? So because like I really wish that Dalton Kincaid like was a full go.
Big time.
Because the Cincinnati Bengals defense is giving up like an average and not just an all-time
100
high.
yards a game.
Yeah, 100 yards a game to tight ends. They're awful with running backs in the passing game too. So they're dead last within the DVOA and running backs and slot receivers. So while I don't see us like airing it out in the yard, like not unless like we see a little bit from Brandon Cooks in certain situations, I do trust our yak as well because that team's also having trouble with tackling. It's got to be back and forth. And the key here is that we cannot afford to have 2 turnovers and still win the game like we did last week. Like say that we have 2 turnovers in this one, I think that it can get ugly really fast. So we need this team to get back into their clean and complimentary football selves. Just make sure you make the most out of each and every single drive. Kev,
that's the big reason why they got buried last week, right? Baltimore turning it over 5 times.
Exactly.
I mean, look, like I still think that the offense is not as good with Burrow, obviously with Joe Flacco, but they still put up some really good numbers, and they were losing to teams like the Jets, allowing 40 points. So at some point, like, great, they played well against the Ravens. Like Lamar Jackson's a shell of himself. Isaiah likely dropped the ball at the inch line. Like at some point,
I do remember that. Yeah,
like.
So they extended Mark Andrews right because of it, you know?
Right. Like at some point, like that's good. Good on them. Like that's how you win football games. Like the Bills have won games like that before, similar fashion against teams when they just win. But like the Bills are 19-21, or excuse me, 19-2 at home, like underneath the Brady era, including the playoffs. And I just think that they benefit playing here. It's a different version than when Dorsey was running 4 verts in the snow and Joe Burrow's doing 360 throws that in practice and warm-ups that we don't even see the end result of. So like at some point, like you can be as disingenuous as you want. You really can. They have the 32nd ranked defense. Like they played okay for a week. They played okay for 2 weeks. I think that's more an indictment on the Baltimore Ravens. And at some point, like the by the metrics, the Ravens still ran the ball. I think they still finished the week 22nd or 23rd in EPA. So stopping the run. So
they bailed on it though. That was the crazy thing. Derrick Henry got 10 carries, which was nuts to me.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
The Bills won't bail on it if it's running. We know that for a fact.
No.
And that's the thing. Like I think that's if there's one thing you can't knock Joe Brady for, it's that he if something's working, he'll go to it. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, he certainly will. But like here's my concern too. Like say that Buffalo goes in there with the game script of look, like we're just gonna pound the rock. Like long sustained drives and time of possession is going to be our key. I really hope that we ultimately end up making adjustments if, for example, we see Cincinnati's just marching down the field with ease. I'm really hoping that we can see that. I'm confident that we will, especially since it's now very important throughout the remainder of the schedule. But I think that's the one concern that's the largest for me right now.
The Bills, Dan, though, to your point, the Bills in the second half defensively, I mean, how good have they been? In every game where they were getting torched, they figured it out every time, except for Miami.
Pick your game. Yeah, I mean, even in Miami, they were really good. Where they weren't good was the last 6 minutes after we continued to falter turnovers.
And that game was so in the bag for them, right? They
actually contained Achane for the majority of the day, and he had 2 big runs under 6 minutes, literally. So, that's why ultimately – we'll see. Like, I just think that they're a solid football team, especially the biggest one, guys. Defense is what it is. Like, they're going to talk about their matchup. The offense is efficiency at home is ridiculous. This is not like Joe Brady's built to win at this time of year. This is what we wanted, at least McDermott and organizationally, what the Bills wanted right now. They don't want 4 verts right now. They don't want 4 verts in 20-mile-an-hour winds. They don't want 4 verts in 0-degree weather. They want to do what they did against the Steelers. And they're built for that. The teams against the Bengals in the past were not built for that. They were not the same teams. The running game scheme were bad. The passing game scheme was definitely better, sure. The running game teams were bad. They just did not think that translated. And down the stretch, they would be right at times, although the Bills still won. Right now, guys, they're built to run the ball. Number 1 in the league. We can sit here and glaze over the fact that the Bills are the best rushing team in the NFL. Like, they are the best. And it's been too many weeks now to say that that's like Fugazi. They are the best running team in the NFL for a reason. They have the most creative running scheme, which is hilarious because we always talk about how uncreative the passing game is. But what they're able to do out of those 2 plays impressed every single film watcher.
Yep.
So ultimately speaking, this team can't stop the run. Either end, I guess, if you want to say that. They can't stop the run. They're poor at it. And quite frankly, like, the Bills are at home. Don't turn the ball over. And that's kind of where I lie with this, because their defense is not Lou Anarumo. It's not the Indianapolis Colts defensive current. It's I think Lou was the glue in a lot of those years that also helped push that Burrow team forward with that offense. Right now, this defense is historically bad and lost to really bad teams and didn't look good early in the year for the quarter and a half or the game and a half they had Burrow. And right now he's in a composite walking boot, like still an elite thrower, an elite processor, has elite receivers. But like at some point, like, we got to be honest about like where we're at this stage. It doesn't mean the Bengals can't win. It just means like we're talking about them like they're 12-1, and like they don't, like, they need to win out. And I'm not 100% sure they beat Baltimore next week again. So we'll see. They needed 5 turnovers the first time. They were losing at stretches in that game, and it took an Isaiah Likely fumble through the end zone. And I'm not a Ravens glazer. So ultimately, like, we'll see how this thing all plays out. But like, I like Joe Burrow. I think he's really good. But we'll see. The Bills have played really well against good quarterbacks this year. So, and they haven't played bad. They haven't done much against the bad ones. That's the big sticking point right now.
Yeah. Well, damn, man. Look, we have Cincinnati coming into town. I am actually not going to be doing my live play-by-play reaction. I will be out of town, unfortunately. So I will be in a big ball of anxiety on a flight to Colorado on Sunday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, man. You better hope they have that Dish Network stream on those little TVs.
Heck
dude, something like that, or I'll just go on ahead and I'll buy the internet. I'll just tap into YouTube TV, and hopefully I'll be able to sweat it out while I'm up in the air.
Just grab it for just grab the remaining package or whatever. It's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I'll go on ahead and I'll get it done right now. But all right. So I think we might as well transition in over to final score predictions, and then we'll also end up going into a hot take for the game. So I'll start off with Z-Bot on this one.
I got 27-24 Buffalo. The over-under is 53.5. And like I mentioned, I think it comes in just slightly under that, because I do think the run game will be more of a play in this one than maybe people think. And I think that results in a slightly lower score, even though 27-24 isn't necessarily a low scoring game. But I do think that that's kind of where we're at here. The 3-point advantage there, I think Buffalo being at home is huge. You know, Kevin alluded to it. I think it's 2 losses under Joe Brady. The one being against the New England Patriots this year, where it was super close. The Bills had a couple of plays that just did not go their way. And if they had won that game, they would be continuing the longest home winning streak in franchise history here. So they've been phenomenal at home. And I do think what we saw last week, I don't want to say it's an aberration for the Cincinnati Bengals, but the Baltimore Ravens are playing some really, really bad football right now. Lamar Jackson in particular has not been good. And I also watched that game and saw multiple scoring opportunities wiped off the board for Baltimore, right? You had a touchdown get fumbled out of the end zone. You had a drop touchdown. So in addition to 5 turnovers, but I do think that Cincinnati will be able to put some points on the board here. The key for me is that the Bills, like you mentioned earlier, Dan, that they cannot turn the ball over at the clip in which they've been doing, especially in plus territory. The 2 turnovers they had against Pittsburgh, you're giving them the ball right there, right? And the only touchdown of the game Pittsburgh scored was because James Cook fumbled, and they're already on the 40-ish yard line, were able to get down the field and score. It was the only opportunity they had really all game. And if you're going to do that against Cincinnati, they're going to take advantage of it. A clean football game goes a long way for Buffalo in this one. So give me 27-24 in a game that I think will live up to the billing here between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen.
27-24. I actually have a much high scoring game. I'm going 41-38.
That sounds fun.
I really think that it's going to be a shootout. I think that with how fast both offenses are going to be able to score, I just have a feeling that Buffalo is going to have to get back into the fourth quarter of week 1 type Buffalo Bills offense. Hot take is that we see a Matt Prater game-winning field goal.
Ooh, nice.
Wow.
To walk us off. Prater, baby. Look, man, we're rocking with the old man for the rest of the season. Bass has been sent off. I'm not even sure if he'll ever have another kicking opportunity for Buffalo ever. 41-38 Buffalo, game winner by Prater. Oh, and 0 turnovers from this Buffalo Bills offense. 0.
Wow.
Hot take. Kev, what do you got?
Man, I'm feeling good now that you both. I mean, Z-Bot even picked the Bills. I was feeling he would lean the other way.
Yeah, dude.
I know he's got his hot battle with Zim coming up, so that's going to be high watch TV. So definitely excited to see how that plays out. But I
do think, by the way, if it was in Cincinnati, I don't know. I think I would feel maybe a little bit different.
I would admit I would be feeling a little different too. Like I'm just feeling so good about the 19-2 record, and it's just like I do think the elements in this specific game help the Bills. I know that's funny saying when they lost a playoff game in the snow. It's just a different roster with a different.
What's it supposed to be like on Sunday?
Bad, isn't it? 20 degrees and flurries and ice and I believe like some variation of a pretty tough environment.
Sunday, 30 degrees and sorry, wait, where are we at here? Sunday, by the time the game kicks off, 30 degrees and potential snow. Yep. Yeah.
So generally speaking, like I think the Bills are built for this. And the one thing that we've harped on Brady and all of us have is I just think that this is what they wanted post that game. Actually, this Bengals game, when we played in the playoffs, they tried to redevelop the roster, in my opinion, to be KC and then also play better in elements. In my opinion, they lost the win game against the Patriots early on. They had lost. They had actually been rough in the Denver game at home. That their home record was faltering a little bit, So leading into the prior year into the case or into the Cincinnati home loss and the snow. So I think that they totally redeveloped it to be better now with a little bit of ugliness in this October stretch that we all saw and we have seen a couple times under Brady. So I got the Bills actually playing a solid offensive football in this game. And I have them winning 34-24. So ultimately, I think the over hits. I really do, because I'm going to buy into the Cincy offense for the most part. And I think one turnover is the difference here. I think they get to Burrow and that different shoe that he's wearing to cause a fumble. He doesn't fumble the ball ever, though. That's the funny part. I think he only has one career fumble. So I think that's a hot take to say he fumbles, because I think he literally only has one fumble loss in his career.
That is going to be the hot take right there. So the second
that's definitely a hot take
of his career, or I mean, maybe a Max Harrison interception would be pretty solid.
Yeah, he will throw a pick.
So did y'all have a chance to watch each and every single route of Brandon Cooks last week or no?
I watched
not everyone.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts, man? Yeah, what are your thoughts, man? Based off of what Buffalo, how Buffalo is using him.
I liked him on the comeback route. The comeback and hitches, ultimately, this is what we said we were missing. And with another week in the playbook, I do think that's the style of receiver we're missing. And for whatever reason, just wasn't working with Elijah Moore. I know. Josh didn't see him. They didn't like the route running, something. I don't really know. Brady's fault, Josh's fault, Elijah's fault. Like Z-Bot says, we always are looking for somebody at fault, but it just didn't work. So whatever that is, it is. But I do think that early on, going to him on a big third down early on in the game, and then not really needing him, I'm pretty excited to see him in this game, because you're going to have DJ Turner, who apparently is locking people up. He's top 5 in that DVOA metric we just talked about with Trey. So he's going to take somebody away. But if Brandon Cooks is on the other side, I'm pretty excited to see what he can do against, other than Turner. I'm just not impressed with anybody in their back seven. I'm really not.
No, not at all. Massive liabilities here. But folks, thank you so much for tapping in on another edition of the Bills Roundtable. We need to give a giant shout out to our good friends over on Picasso's Pizza. Folks, if you have not tried Picasso's Pizza, what are you doing? 4 great locations in the Western New York area, and they're also delivering nationwide via online sales. So say, for example, you're thinking of a great Christmas present for somebody that is displaced from Western New York. This is your go-to move. Simply just go to their website and hit that nationwide button, fulfill your order, and Picasso's Pizza will be on your front doorstep in just a couple of days. Shout out there. Guys, we appreciate you for tapping in. Let's go around the table and let's hear what's going on y'all's channels and brands, starting off with Z-Bot.
I'll be live tomorrow night with Rico. Like I mentioned, we're thinking we're going to have Zim and his buddy on. And I don't know if you guys know who Zim is. He's one of the big Twitter personalities for the Cincinnati Bengals. I host the AFC North Roundtable, which he is on. He is the Cincinnati Bengals representative, and he is must-see TV. He is hilarious. I know Dan's gotten into it with him a couple of times, but it'd be easier to probably tell you who hasn't, because Zim goes in for his Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll be doing that on Friday. Yeah. And then Sunday, pregame, postgame over on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. That's what I'll be up to, and hopefully talking about a W for the Bills to get their 9th win.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you got, Kev?
Yeah, Yosefimi. I've been really diving into some numbers lately. I've been finding a lot of things interesting, and there's a lot of correlations to where I think that this team can take it with a wide open AFC, and it starts right now. Let's take care of Burrow. Keep him out of the playoffs, too. That's a fringe benefit if the Bills are able to win. That's one step closer to maybe seeing Pittsburgh in the playoffs and not Baltimore or Cincinnati or KC or Houston. Houston's now in it. Talk about after playing us, guys. One last note. They're in an injury mess. Lassiter's out. They just claimed Jamarcus Ingram from waivers, believe it or not. So you have Houston with Anderson's hurt.
And same thing with Tim Settle. He's hurt too.
Tim Settle's on IR. Like, talk about they played the best defensive game of the year. Did hold off Indy, and now they're like collapsing. So we'll see if that D is able to keep it together. But you're talking about keeping away.
Familiar. It sounds familiar.
You're talking about
keeping like out the Falcons. Yeah, sort of like
possibly the three other teams in the divisional round last year.
Yeah.
So not to mention, and then possibly no Burrow.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, I know it hasn't been our greatest year.
Yeah.
But we talk about path all the time, and it's not a Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or it's not a Baltimore, KC path. I mean, it could be a path that should favor the Buffalo Bills. Let's get into it, man. This is where it starts.
Man, you know what? So I sit there and I just look at some of our potential wild card opponents.
Jacksonville.
I would love Jacksonville. That's what I said. I feel like I'd be even more excited of playing Jacksonville.
LA, if they
Chargers.
make it, yeah. I mean, they're.
And so Herbert, he's going to have to play football. So the exact same way that Aaron Rodgers has been playing football this past Sunday.
Daniel Jones without a leg.
With Daniel Jones without a leg.
Everybody's figuring out how to stop Taylor right now.
Oh my God.
James Cook, by the way, only trails him by about 60 yards. For as much pub as Jonathan Taylor has gotten this year, I mean, James Cook is right there.
He's been stopped cold in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, dude. Look at that. Jimbo Cook, man. Keep on cooking. All right, folks. We appreciate you for tapping in. Go Bills. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Go Bills.